the season, a few weeks between that point and when you eventually signed the contract. Can you just talk about what the timeline was like for you and your thought process?
Yeah, I think at the end of every season, I've always tried to do self-reflection um, about where the program was at, where I was at individually, what's going on with your family, everything that's going on, and you kind of have those discussions to see, am I still happy? Am I still where I want to be? Am I still hungry about what I'm doing? Um, and certainly for me, a lot of my life has changed. I'm an empty nester now. My kids are out of the house. Um, so you start to think about what your goals are, what you want to do, and honestly, at the end of the day, though, the legacy piece means so much to me. Um, Being a part of Northwestern, I kind of feel like the program is kind of my baby, and I just it wasn't something that I was ready to leave. I was still hungry about what we were doing. I was still passionate about what we were trying to build, how we could get better, and my heart was always leading me towards staying at Northwestern. So that was where I wanted to be.
What were some of the things that you were looking for in that extension? Was it simply more years, increased compensation, some revenue share stuff?
Yeah, I think more than anything, I mean, is to make sure that we were on par with what our competitors were doing, resource wise. I mean, you guys have seen we've done an incredible job with facilities, but now, from a resource perspective, were we investing on a comparable level towards what we have to try to be within our conference? It doesn't mean we have to be at the top of the list, but you have to be in the ballpark in order to compete, especially in today's day and age, with investment in players, investment in the resources in the program. And, fortunately for me, Mark Jackson has been nothing but phenomenal, since he's been here. And not only Mark, but, the upper leadership of the board of trustees and everybody wanting this thing to keep moving in a positive direction. I think everyone sees the progress we've made, especially over the last 3 years, and I think we want to keep it going. And so to be able to have those conversations about, okay, if we want to, what is it going to take? So I think more than anything, it was just being able to take care of staff, being able to have the resources in place, in my opinion, to be able to stay competitive and relevant in the Big Ten Conference.
How would you evaluate the state of the team right now, just a few weeks away from your first exhibition?
I'm excited. We're knock on wood. We're pretty healthy, other than training camp bumps and bruises. We've been able to have our full complement of players on the floor pretty much every day. It's an interesting team for me, really, and one that I'm learning a lot about. You have Nick, who everyone knows is a known commodity, one of the best players in the conference, and then I feel like we have a lot of guys who are good players. And, certainly 8 new guys that are learning a new system and kind of trying to find their way, and 4 returners that have all gotten better. And so literally every day in practice, I've been mixing and matching lineups every day, putting new guys together, not just for them, but also for me. I'm trying to learn about this team and, what kind of team do we want to start? How do we want to close? What guys play well together? I think we can play big at times. I think we can play smaller and quicker. Last year we didn't really have a true point guard, right? I mean, Jalen Leach was a terrific player. He'd never played point guard in his life. All of a sudden now the ball's in his hands. KJ Wyndham had never played point guard in his life. Jordan Clayton had never played point guard in his life. So, now we're able to add a couple guys, Jaden Reed and Jake West, that are point guards. And I think that'll help those other guys too, kind of play more of their natural positions and do the things that are going to help them be even more successful. And I think we have the opportunity to have more depth. I say opportunity. Everyone says they're deep this time of year, right? It's easy to say that in October. I think we have the opportunity to have more depth this year, which will be newer for me too. I mean, you guys know, you followed us. We've always played a shorter bench, and I've never been afraid to play guys 35, 37, 38 minutes in a game. I think I would love to be in a position where we get Nick's minutes down a little bit, where he could be fresher at the end of games, and play more guys. And to do that, play a little bit faster. Our tempo's been slower at times because of guys playing heavy minutes. I think with our speed and quickness, I think there's going to be opportunity to play a little bit faster tempo. maybe play a couple more guys. But for me, that's going to be an adjustment. Playing 9, 10 guys in a game versus 8. That's something that's going to and their play is going to dictate that. I tell the guys that all the time, and I think we're going to have the kind of team, honestly, where Michigan State was like this last year, right? They had the most depth in the league, played 10 guys, and on a nightly basis, you never know who that leading scorer, and they end up winning the league. Now, I think Nick will be our leading scorer, but day to day in practice, there's different guys on our team that emerge, and so the lack of clear separation, hopefully, to me, will be a positive. And you guys know when there's competition in practice and competition for minutes, it makes guys be better. It makes guys be more detailed. So that's kind of what I've seen so far, and I'm excited about it's a new group. That group we've had together for the last 4 years, it was awesome. It was amazing. But we kind of knew, you knew Ty Berry, Matt Nicholson, Boo, Nick, Brooks Barnheiser, Chase was part. We had that group of guys that kind of grew together. And now, other than Nick, everybody else is gone. So it's a new team, new energy, new guys, a lot of young guys, which brings a lot of energy and exciting for me to teach. I love teaching, and so to kind of develop these young players has been a fun process for me as well.
Northwestern hired a department-wide general manager, Christian Sarkisian, to manage the revenue share. But he comes from an NFL background. He's been involved with football recruiting. What is the basketball team's relationship with him, and how is the revenue share approval process? What does that look like with someone who, I don't know if he doesn't know basketball, but is from a football background?
Yeah, I mean, Christian's been great so far, and he's been really good in trying to learn more about the basketball landscape. He's got great experience being in the NFL and understanding kind of and there's similarities with both sports, but there's also differences. The agents that are involved with basketball are different than the agents that are doing football in a lot of cases. But he's been a really good resource. He's dove in with us. Chris Lawton, who's on my staff, who's been my director of basketball operations. Before he came with me, he worked in the NBA in the G League office and has a lot of and he's kind of been our liaison with Christian and kind of doing a little bit more in that regard in terms of kind of planning for revenue share as we now transition from collective to revenue share, planning and put together the numbers and kind of seeing how we have to be smart. It's with a salary cap comes decisions that have to be made. When you're offering guys money and offering guys salaries and contracts, you have to make smart decisions on how you put your team together. So I feel comfortable with our position that's in place. I mean, ideally, at some point, I'd like to have our own basketball GM. We're not there yet, but hopefully down the road we can get to that point, and that's not a knock on Christian. I've been pleased with the job he's done, and he's really tried to dive in with us and see how he can be helpful. And what it does too, it takes it off my plate. The last couple of years, it's a tough dynamic for a coach when I have to be the coach, and then I'm also the one heavily involved in contract negotiations. I mean, that's a tough thing. So I want to be the coach. I don't want to be the GM. I don't want to. I want to help with decisions that are made, but to have Christian in place to be able to talk to these agents and kind of go through the money aspect of things has been a big help.
Looking at last year's team, obviously there's some real emotional moments. How did you deal with that in the offseason? Did you rest a lot? Did she take a lot of time away? What was that like?
I would have loved to say that I rested a lot. It's almost impossible in today's landscape. I didn't rest until the month of August. Now, the month of August, I got a little bit of rest, but I don't think everyone realizes how chaotic it becomes as soon as your season ends in today's landscape. The moment you lose your last game, then that's when the real season begins. Everyone's trying to steal your players. Guys, everybody wants more money. What do you have to do in the portal? What are we doing with high school recruits? How are we getting everybody's money in order? All that stuff comes to the forefront as soon as the season ends. And then that leads right into summer training, which was end of June. And so then we go into our summer training all the way through June, July. We have July recruiting. Now in August, I rested a little bit. Played some golf, got away with my wife a little bit. She was mad at me. We didn't get a vacation in the spring, so I had to give her some time in August. And that was good with us with quarter system. That's where it really came in because we don't start until mid-September. So it gave me a little bit, and I feel great now. I'm recharged. I'm refreshed. I'm ready to roll, and I welcome. But I wish there were more breaks for us. There just aren't right now in today's landscape, which stinks. But it's just the way of the world.
Chris, as deep as this league is now and expansion and more teams joining Division One, is it maybe time for the NCAA tournament to expand?
I'm not against that. I mean, I'm an old school guy, but I know that I don't want to expand so much that you feel like everybody's getting in. I mean, I still think there's a merit of having a successful year to get yourself in. But what they're talking about with whatever, adding 8 more teams or whatever it may be, I'm okay with that in the landscape. And who knows? We're probably not done yet. I mean, where is this all going to go? With the Power Fours, and then I hope we can keep in the long run. I'm a big fan of the NCAA tournament, the way it's currently constructed, and having the mid-major programs and the teams that win their league, and I hope it can stay that way for a long time because I think there's beauty in that event. But with the money involved now and where things are headed, who knows where this thing's going to be in 10 years. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys know with the transfer portal, we really try to identify real needs, for us in our roster. The first need was we needed point guard play, right? I mean, we were losing Jalen Leach, played a couple guys in KJ and Jordan Clayton. There were more combo type scoring guards that did a solid job. But we need to address the point guard position. Jaden Reed, to me was a big get for that. 2 years of experience in South Florida. He brings an element of speed and quickness that we really haven't had. And I was talking to Dave Ennett earlier. I don't know. And Boo was quick, but this is kind of a different level. He can play 94 feet both ends. He can pick up the ball, pressure the ball, which will allow us to extend our defense a little bit, which I've been wanting to do. His ability to get by guys, get into the lane, hopefully create some easier shots. Not have so much of a grind on the offensive end when you have a guy who can break people down. And he can make threes, but I love the fact that he's got 2 years of high-level experience. He's been on a good team. He's been successful. I think he's going to really be ready to step in and be an impact guy for us from day one. Max Green was another guy we really coveted in the portal. Max got wait till you see him. I mean, Max has got great size. I mean, he's almost 6'7". He's really tall and he can really score the ball. He gives us. Certainly when you lose a guy like a Ty Berry, we had a Ryan Langford, guys that are just real weapons on the perimeter. Max can really shoot the ball, and he's got good size on the wings. So I think switchability defensively with his size and his ability to not only score, but he's got really good offensive instincts. And then obviously everyone knows we had to address the front line as well. Arrington Page was a guy we were just really felt good as we did a deep dive. His talent is undeniable. Certainly he's been in a couple of places and kind of hasn't fully come to fruition. But if you dive into some of his, some of the stretches he's had, he's 6'10", 6'11", really athletic, really good skill set. And I think he's a guy that, this is his third spot. So I think he understands the urgency of, it's time for me to really step forward now as a junior and consistently be a good player. So all 3 of those guys were guys we felt we really needed to get. We feel like all of them will be impact players for us and have an opportunity to have a big role on this year's team. Yeah, Nick coming back, but obviously it was the number one thing we needed was Nick coming back. But people that have followed our program know I'm a big fan of everyone exploring the process. We've had that boost on that in the past. Brooks Barnheiser did that, last year. I thought it was important for him to go on some workouts to see what it's like to prepare himself for next year, but also get the feedback from the NBA people, about some of the things eventually for him to be an NBA player, what he needs to be able to do, which is great because he's such a worker. And a lot of times I probably told him all those things, but when you hear that from NBA GMs, NBA head coaches, it rings a little bit clearer. But I know Nick is 2 feet in with what we're trying to do. He's trying to win. And I think the biggest thing for him is the leadership component. Nick is one of those guys that he's a frontline soldier. Like, he'll run through the wall for his group. You guys know that. He'll throw his body around. He'll do whatever's necessary. But in a lot of, he wasn't a very vocal leader. He was just a great player and a great fighter for us. Now he has to be that vocal leader. And I think those last 10 games last year when Brooks and Jalen went down, it forced him to take that on. And I've seen a lot of growth in him this summer, using his voice, being good with the younger guys, being good with the new guys, and kind of being that vocal leader that we need to be in addition to being our best player.
I was just going to ask you about Trey. Obviously, you guys spent a ton of time to recruiting him last summer, but it seems like he has lived up to expectations, maybe even more so far. How is he taking this?
Yeah, we love Trey. Trey has such a good demeanor. Nothing really phases him too much. He doesn't get overly rattled in a good way or in a bad way. He goes about his business. He's physically ready to play. He's 6'7", 6'8", 230 pounds, very skilled. I think him and Nick together is going to play off really well off of each other. I think we can do some creative things, with those guys, with their skill sets and moving those guys around. He's ready to play right away, and we knew that. That's the way we recruited him. I always temper myself with freshmen because it is a whole new ballgame. But you look at what he did last year, taking his team to a state championship, what he was able to do on that stage in Indiana. All he's done is get better and better every year, which those are the kind of guys I love, guys who keep getting better. And I'd be surprised if he wasn't one of the more impactful freshmen in the league, but that's going to be on him. I mean, it's a big jump, but he's going to be in positions to have a big impact on our team this year.
Arrington is the only player taller than 6'10" on the team that has previous experience. In a league that's so often dominated by big men, do you feel comfortable going into a year with only one guy, with that size and that previous level of play?
The reason why is because we have big wings. I think you can get away sometimes with a little bit more of an undersized big if you have bigger wings. So, Tyler Kropp's a kid at 6'9", that I think is going to be able to definitely hold his own at our level. And especially if he's playing with Nick Martinelli and with Trey Singleton, or with Nick Martinelli and Justin Mullins, or Angelo Sciarrino, who's added 15 pounds of muscle at 6'7". A kid like Max Green might be your two guard at 6'7". So, I think when you're positionally big at other spots, I think sometimes it can get away. It reminds me a little bit, with our first tournament team, Derek Barden was 6'7". He was a center at 6'7", but Vic Law was 6'8", Scotty Lindsay was 6'7", Sanjay Lumpkin was 6'6", Brian McIntosh was a 6'3" point. So we were able to get away with a 6'7" center then because we had bigger positional size, and he was a tough battling guy. And I see that in a Tyler Kropp. I think you'll see lineups at times where even Nick could be the 5. I think we're playing around with that a little bit, where you play Nick, as a small ball 5, and that becomes a tough matchup for other teams. And we trap the post, so that we don't see a lot of one-on-one situations in the post, and so I think we're playing around with it. Obviously, would we have loved to have 2, 3, 4, 7-footers? That everybody would, but I think we gotta go with what we got, and I feel comfortable because of our positional size that we can play a little bit smaller at the 5, knowing that those other guys can help out.
On the other side of the lineup, you mentioned you have size and wings, but Jaden Reed's kind of a smaller player. He's shorter than 6 foot. Is there any concern about how a player like that transfers to a Big Ten level? Or kind of talk a little bit about that now.
Yeah, I think he's a tough kid. He's a New York City kid. So he's kind of been the kid that's always played against bigger guys, and always he played at a highly rated high school team. In high school, he was at Lehigh in Long Island, which was a nationally ranked team. He went down to South Florida, made an impact there. He's tough-minded. I'm not worried about it. People thought Boo was undersized at 6 foot, and I think if you're tough, if you have fight to you, I think that can be a little bit overrated sometimes. So I'm comfortable with him. I think he'll translate. I think he's ready to be a quality point guard in the Big Ten.
You talked about bringing in Jaden Reed really to be in that point guard role. Do you see yourself really slotting in KJ, locking him into that off-ball lineup, or do you see yourself staggering a little bit, given the success that KJ had last year running the point and having Jaden be KJ opposite?
Yeah, I think there's going to be all of the above. I mean, I don't think anything's been determined. I like KJ. I think naturally, I mean, the way the game is played, you have multiple ball handlers. I mean, some of the best teams play 2 point guards. You know, when we were at Duke, you know, we had Chris Duhon and Jason Williams. You know, we won the national championship. You know, Tyus Jones and Quinn Cook, they won the national. Those 2 6'1" point guards. So I think those guys are going to play together, and they can play off of each other and handle the ball. I think inherently for KJ, he's got a scorer's mentality, and I don't mean that negatively. I want to use that. I mean, we need his scoring. You know, we need his ability to shoot the ball and make plays. But he's still going to play pick and rolls, and he's still going to enter offense. And there's still going to be times he's going to be the point. But I feel with Jaden and Jake West, you know, those 2 guys are true point guards by nature. And it just adds. The more guys you have that can make plays, the better. And I think you're going to see all kinds of different lineups. And it's still to be determined. I mean, those 2 guys are playing together. KJ's playing with Jake some. There's sometimes KJ's the point, and he's playing with Max and Angelo, or Max and Justin. Like, we're playing around with stuff every day. So I'm not really a position-based coach. I mean, what position was Brooks Barnheiser, right? What position is Nick? I mean, I don't think Trey Singleton has a position. I mean, he's a do-it-all kind of player. So I'm less worried about, like, who the point is and who's – I mean, I just want guys that can all pass, handle, shoot, that can make plays. And I'm excited to see KJ finish the year really strong. You know, a lot of that was because of the injuries, right? I mean, it gave him an opportunity to say, okay, we're going to play him out of necessity. And he really responded and played well. So I'm excited to see the jump he's going to make this year now that he's a sophomore.
This is a sport of basketball, the game-related question. But, I mean, the men's team is a part of basketball that has have quarters.
Yes.
Do you have an opinion on that? Would
Yeah.
you have a preference?
Yeah, I want quarters. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, I've been beating the drum forever. I mean, we're the only basketball game in the world that doesn't play quarters. Internationally, men, women, high school, we're the only game in the world that plays halves. And I don't know. I would be a big fan of the 10-minute quarters. I think that's the next progression, but we'll see when we can get that in.
Same thing with like advanced ball and timeouts.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up. I just think it adds to the strategy, right? I mean, I like the quarters too because it could reset the fouls. You know, in a 20-minute half, you get the bonus with 15 minutes to go. Now they're shooting free throws. In quarters, you can reset the fouls every quarter. I like the ability to advance. I think it adds strategy. You know, defense, offense, and so hopefully one step at a time. We got coaches' challenges this year, so that's one step I think will be a added help, and hopefully we can get there, you know, over the next couple of years.
In recent years, we've really had guys break out their sophomore seasons. I mean, what do you think, given that, what do you think that means for guys like KJ Williams and Andrew? You know, what type of season do you see them having?
Yeah, I hope great seasons. I mean, both of them had really good off seasons. You know, I talked about KJ. You know, his growth from the end of the year, kind of, you know, he had a really good summer for us, and then I thought Angelo maybe had as good a summer as anybody in our program. You know, we talked about his physicality, and he's such a great athlete, but he lost a lot because of the physicality. You know, he got knocked around. He went through the Big Ten, and he really got in the weight room. He's added about 15 pounds of muscle from last year, and it shows. You know, his athleticism now is really showing out more because he's playing through contact a lot better. Excited to see his growth. I thought Justin Mullins had a really good summer for us, you know, just getting confidence. He was a really good defender kind of role, but I've seen the offensive confidence kind of come in the offseason, which is good. I thought Jordan Clayton, him playing the last 10 games last year, was great for him. He's really solid, stable. He's had a good offseason. We have options. You know, we have options. And, you know, for me, that's why I'm not really locked in. I mean, I know Nick's going to be in there. But other than that, I couldn't tell you right now, you know, and I think we're going to be the kind of team, and I've been preaching it with our guys. We got to be okay if a certain group of guys get it going on a certain night that other guys' minutes might be down, you know, and it might be your night one night and his night one. And I mean, Michigan State won a conference championship doing that last year, you know, 10 guys playing. And I think we can be wired. Now, you know what? It might end up where there becomes separation, and that might happen too. But right now, I see a lot of guys on a day-to-day basis doing a lot of good things, and there's a lot of different ways we can go, and that's new for me. We really haven't had that, so that's been kind of learning my team and some of these. I think the exhibition games are going to be huge. I love the fact now we can play these 2 exhibition games with fans, and kind of I'm going to use those to play different lineups and kind of see, what we got as we head into the regular season.
Two more questions. Kind of talked about it a few different times. It seems like there's kind of 2 timelines. You're bringing in 8 new guys with freshman transfers. Maybe normally it would be the kind of year where you're trying to figure some things out, but then the other timeline is you have Nick,
Yeah, right,
senior.
right.
So how do you kind of mesh and blend those 2 goals together of trying to figure out the program's future and also give Nick the sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about winning this year, and with that, how do we develop young players? But we have to have the urgency. What Nick Martinelli has been in this program, I know it's really important to him. Legacy, like I talked about, legacy is important to me. It's important to him. That's why he came back. I think I don't know that any other players played in 3 NCAA tournaments in our program history. He'd be the first. And so, I mean, I know that's important to him, and I know he knows. Think about Nick. He's been in the program 3 years. He's been to 2 tournaments out of 3 years, and last year, who knows? If we don't lose Brooks and Jalen, I mean, that's a debate for another day. But he's eager to get back, and we're in win now mode. But to your point, while we're winning now mode, are we continuing to develop for our future? And that's going to be a big part of what we do as well, because that's our secret sauce. I mean, we're not going to be an 8 portal out in and out type of team. We're going to be a high school recruitment team that mixes in a few portal guys, and that's how we're going to continue to build. That's what we did with this team, and but we're trying to win. Make no mistake, this isn't a rebuild, situation. We're trying to load up to be competitive this year and put ourselves in a position to be postseason worthy in March. Well, I have to speak in generalities because the NCAA rules. I can't talk about by name. But what I can say is our success and our players' individual successes has led to more excitement on the recruiting trail. I mean, Trey Singleton, I don't know that he comes to Northwestern if he doesn't see what Brooks and Nick have done as those hybrid forwards. Point guards that wanted to come here because of watching Boo Buie, things of that nature. Like when you have really good players that do really good things and then you win, it leads to recruits taking notice of what you're doing and the environments. Let's not talk Welsh Ryan. I mean, these guys are coming to games now, and it's electric in Welsh Ryan. I mean, those are all parts of our program that have elevated our recruiting, and it's been great because that's where we want to be in a ball game where we're recruiting guys that talent-wise belong in the Big Ten, and not just guys that we're taking flyers on that we're going to try to develop. So we have noticed that excitement on the trail. People are taking notice of what we're doing, seeing Brooks get drafted. Man, I can go there and be a draft pick. I mean, those are things that really help your program and has really helped our recruiting. Why can Purdue win the national championship? Because they have Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Fletcher Lawyer, and one of the very best coaches in all of college basketball. So when you have great talent and great coaching, you can win it all, and they're going to be a great team. I'm glad we don't play them until the last game of the season, so we can sit back and watch. So thank you. All right.